I want to bring in Republican strategist Boyd Matheson and Democratic strategist Craig Varoga to push this a little bit forward. Boyd, not only is Mike Pence there, but something called the THAAD, which is a ground system that obliterates incoming missiles. The U.S. placed that in South Korea. It feels like things are heating up. What do you suspect will happen in the next couple of weeks?
So I think what you're going to see is that the administration is going to continue to flex a little bit. Leading from the front is very different from leading from the middle. So rather than talking in sweeping generalities, you won't see a lot in terms of what's coming from the administration. They will keep it close to the vest, but I think this kind of message of having Vice President Pence in the region, not just with South Korea, but also with Japan, a strategic ally over the years that we need to make sure it has a lot of confidence as well. I think you're going to see that continue to move over the coming weeks. I think you'll also see a continued outreach to China. China has recognized that Kim Jong-un is not his father. He is kind of thumbing his nose at the Chinese. His father was much more pliant for the Chinese, and so I think you'll see some exerted effort there in terms of China as well as South Korea and Japan.
Craig, one historian this weekend described what's going on with North Korea as the Cuban Missile Crisis in slow motion. Look, does it come to that? And at what point do we feel we need to send a bigger message to a nation like North Korea?
Look, I mean, North Korea is a particularly bad player on the international stage. We all know that. I actually agree with the analysis of what we should expect from the administration over the next several weeks. What I do think that we need, and this is a political observation, I do think that we need some calm, credible statements from the White House and from the Pentagon and the State Department in terms of this threat, so that we're dealing with facts. Even though, I think that it's a wise policy not to show all of the American cards.
Okay, let's bring it stateside and more to the political discussion here. Sean Spicer was just asked about it, but thousands of opponents of President Trump, or people who really want to see his tax returns, came out in force this weekend, and they were rallying and they were protesting. This just doesn't, Boyd, seem to be an issue that dies down.
It may not die down, but it's much more about just protests. But anger is not an agenda. Frustration is not a platform. And I think this is kind of the shiny object. What we do know from the tax reforms of the president that were leaked out, he made a lot of money, and he paid a lot of money in taxes.
Okay, but let me just interrupt here. To be fair, it was 1 year that he released, and it was, I believe, more than 10 years ago. So there was sort of a cherry picking here, and that release was quite interesting to a lot of people who feel he should release it. Sean Spicer, Craig, simply said he can't because the IRS is auditing him. Is this just an issue that people need to move on from?
No, I don't think people should move on from it. And one, the president, can release those taxes. Richard Nixon released his taxes when they were being audited. I think the problem here, and it actually ties together with the previous topic, is that the president, for whatever reason, doesn't want to release his taxes, doesn't want to be transparent. And that's interfering with his credibility, which is very important when we're looking at war and peace issues throughout the globe. So it's like, I think he should release them. I don't think it's going to go away. I think as long as he doesn't release them, any fantasy that there's going to be tax reform when he won't release his own taxes is just a fantasy.
Do you both have your tax returns in? It's tax day today.
It is tax day. And I think the most important number for the American people is the $29 billion Americans spent preparing their taxes just this year.
Yeah.
And so I think they do want to get down to, how does it apply to me?
Code.
That's the real key.
Yeah. Christine Lagarde of the IMF wants that seen too. Reform the tax code. It's too long, too complicated. Matthew Boyd, Republican strategist, and Craig Varoga, Democratic strategist.
Thank you so much.